All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the webinar. I hope you are having a wonderful first couple of days of 2024. Weird to say 2024. It's noon Eastern, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna give people a minute or two to get here, but I am Nick Finzer, if you don't know me. And we're here to talk about this new climb method. It's not necessarily new, it's just newly put together. It's something I've been working on since I started teaching, probably 20 years ago. And please feel free. This is an interactive webinar. If you're here live, if you're watching the replay or you're watching this here, you're going to have to not be live. Okay, yes, and I can see all of the comments. So please drop in your comments throughout. Yes, James, how's that? I got the microphone level up here quite a bit. Yep, I got to see thumbs up. And yes, I can see your comments. So Matt, Happy New Year. So yes, throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop in your questions. I'm going to go ahead and go through the whole presentation today without getting too sidetracked by the questions, but at the end, there'll be plenty of time, or if you want to drop me a line later on, you can always email me. My email is nickfinzer@gmail.com. And we're going to roll along. So let's see, 11:01. I'm going to give people one more minute before I jump in, but I'm excited to kind of talk to everybody today about a brand new thing. And at the end, make sure you stick around because there will be a free gift for you for coming here today, a download for you. I'll give you at the end of the presentation. It should be about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then we'll be open for questions. And like I said, drop your questions into the comments section. I see Simon. What's up, Simon? Thanks for dropping by. And I'll get to them all at the end. And so the whole thing, I'll probably stay on until the top of the next hour, around 1 p.m. Eastern time. But yeah, so today we're gonna talk about this climb method. So the first thing I want you to do before we get started is, if you're here live, I'd love for you to drop in where you're watching from. Put in your location, put in what instrument you play, maybe something about your experience with trying to learn jazz improvisation. Are you in school? Did you go to school? Have you just been learning on your own? Have you tried different online courses, different teachers? Anything you might want to share in the comment section. I love to see it. I see hello from Rome. Oh, nice. Simon's in Rome. I thought you were in Switzerland, but nice. So feel free to drop that in the comment section. I'd love to see where everyone is tuning in from. What's up, Kevin? Thanks for dropping by. Eugene, Oregon in the house. I'm coming to you from Denton, Texas, where the University of North Texas is, where I teach at, if you didn't know, which you probably did if you're already here on the webinar. Okay, St. Louis, Missouri, bass trombone, tenor trombone, fresh ideas. Yeah, hopefully this will give you a few ideas for your own teaching and how you can get your students digging deeper here. South Carolina, great. James, thanks for dropping by. Thanks for saying hello. Always got to have my coffee here. Nice. And Simon's learning Italian, so you don't need to learn just trombone. You got to learn languages too. I know some people let me know that today was their travel day to the Gen Conference, the Jazz Educators Network Conference down in New Orleans. But I was not able to go this year, but I didn't mean to overlap anybody's plans, but people can watch this replay and we'll do it again later on in the year. But all right, Robert's here, Fort Collins. Nice. So that's your horn. Very cool. Thanks for tuning in, Robert. Bogota. Nice. Amazing. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, go ahead and drop any comments or thoughts you have here in the live stream chat comment section, and I'll see them. And again, I'll go back to them at the end of the presentation, and we'll go from there. So awesome. I see a lot of people dropping in. Let's see, Ontario, California, Tampico, Mexico, Eastern Washington University. Oh, nice. Oh, wow. It was a long time ago, 2012. Well, thanks for dropping by, Ricardo. Appreciate you. Brian, you too. All right. So we're going to jump into the webinar. We're going to drop into the presentation here. And here we go. So welcome. Feel free to drop in a line. You already put this, a lot of you, into the comments section, things you might want to learn, things you're thinking about. I'm always happy to get some feedback about what people are thinking about, because I know what my students that I'm working with are, and I sometimes don't know what other people are thinking about, obviously, because I don't work with everyone. So feel free to drop in what you're thinking about, what you're working on anytime throughout the presentation. All right, so if you don't know me, I'm a jazz trombonist. I've worked with a lot of different people, including some of my favorites here. We have Wynton Marsalis, who played with the Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra, Anat Cohen and her Tentet, Ryan Truesdale and his Gail Evans project. And back when I first got out of college, I was touring a lot with a YouTube, I don't know what you want to call it, but we had a lot of performances all around the world with Postmodern Jukebox, a YouTube cover band, I guess you would call it. But I grew up in Rochester, New York. I went to the Eastman School of Music for my undergraduate degree. And then I moved to New York City in 2010 to go to the Juilliard School for my master's degree. And here's some of my mentors from that time. We had the great, this is Frank Kimbrough, great pianist, Ryan Truesdale, drummer Carl Allen, Wycliffe Gordon was my very first jazz trombone teacher, Mark Kellogg, who was the teacher at the Eastman School of Music, and Steve Teray, who my mentor from the Juilliard School. So right after I finished there, I started teaching in college. And 2014, I started teaching at the Florida State University. I was a visiting professor of jazz trombone there. And then in 2018, I started at the University of North Texas. And then UNT, formerly North Texas State used to be called, has one of the longest standing traditions of jazz education in the country. The program was started 75 years last year, so this is our 76th year. And it's been a long history of jazz education here in the United States. It was the first program. Some people argue the NEC was first. I don't know which is actually true, but we claim to be first. And so I've been running my online teaching studio since 2017, and that's when I started posting weekly videos every week right after I finished teaching at Florida State University, taking a kind of more deep dive into online education, giving master classes and lessons and all that kind of stuff. And concurrent with all of that, I've been releasing albums. Probably a lot of you have checked out some of my music. I got a bunch of records on Spotify. You can see some of them here. That most recent one, Dreams, Visions, Illusions, was actually commissioned by Chamber Music America, which is a great organization that supports new music. And I'm very grateful to have done that. And so if you haven't checked those records out, you can check them out. Sioux Falls, South Dakota in the house. Chicago in the house. Canada, not California. Thanks, Brian. And so I'm excited to get started talking through the climb method here. So why am I doing this? Well, I want to share with you what I think is the number one most simple and effective way to develop as a jazz improviser. It does not have to be complicated, but you do need an efficient and an effective system for learning. I'm going to be opening up my virtual studio to take on a very limited number of students to coach them myself, and we're going to use this climb method to do so. So I've been running a lot of different online programs, lessons, weekly virtual studio, one-off courses. I did a blues course, a rhythm changes course, a drone course, a course on music marketing. And so, like I said, if you stick around to the very end, I'm going to show you how to get a free gift just for showing up here today. So I'm really grateful you're here. And so let's jump in here. So a lot of people are just seemingly lost as to how to become more deep improvisers, but it's actually very simple. But it's not achieved simply. Each step requires a lot of work. If you thought I was just going to kind of wave some magic fairy dust on you today or use my magic wand on you and take all the work out of the method, well, unfortunately, you'd be wrong. There's not a lot of things I can give you that'll just magically make you better. But in order to do this, we have to understand that we have to set ourselves up for success as students of the music. And so that means we need some effective learning objectives. And so I think that effective learning requires a few things: a clear objective, mastery of the prerequisites, an effective system to learn the concepts, effective practice system to develop mastery, and then you need accountability or a timeline or goal setting. Any of those things to kind of put the ideas into practice. It's hard to do it all on your own. Your favorite athletes, they all have coaches that are helping them through, whether they're there every day, once a week, once a month, regardless of how far along their journey they might be. So today I'm going to help you do these 6 things. I got to move myself because I'm on top of it. Identify the clear and concise objectives that you need. Tell you the cold hard truth about what prerequisites are really required to be a great jazz improviser. Show you my super effective method to become a great improviser. Offer a framework for practicing and implementing. I'm going to suggest you a precise schedule on how you might do this, and then I can offer you accountability on this journey. So what are we going to learn today? I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you the climb method, what it is, how to use it, and why I think it's the number one most effective way to study jazz and jazz improvisation, regardless of what the internet says, regardless of what YouTube says, the PDF courses, the books people want to sell you. Of course, there's a lot of value in books and written material, but learning to improvise in jazz is like, in my opinion, it's like learning a language, and you can read and write all day long in a language, but you don't really have fluency until you can speak the language. So in our music and jazz music, the tradition is to learn from the masters. And unfortunately, most of these folks are either one, out of reach, they're too far away from you, wherever you might be, like Mountain View, California, or two, they've already passed on. So who is this for? Well, it's for you. It's for anyone that wants to make strides in developing a concept as an effective improviser in any genre of music. Of course, I'm focused on jazz, but this method applies to any genre of music you want to apply it to. It's going to work for you. So when I first came up with the idea for this talk, I was going to call it the skyscraper method, because I think it's a great metaphor for walking our way through the steps. So the 5-step method I use to master improvisation in any style is especially useful for jazz because, of course, jazz features improvisation. And well, why climb? Well, we're building. We're trying to ascend to our highest heights. And what sorts of things do we tend to climb? Well, I thought of staircases. And what has a lot of staircases? Well, a skyscraper. So you can see the Burj Khalifa here. To work our way through the method, we're going to use that analogy. So that if there's a lot of references to buildings and analogies and blueprints, that's why. So, climb. We're going to talk about the 5 steps. C, conceptualize. L, learn the building blocks. I, improve your foundations. M, master the language by learning repertoire, solos, style, etc. And then we're going to build one floor at a time and focus on the fact that the deeper the foundation we build, the higher you can go. So we're going to dig in now to each concept. Get myself out of the way once again. There we go. So let's dig deeper. Next is going to be, here we go, conceptualize. So the first thing to define is what we actually want to achieve. We need to find the kind of open space that we're going to be able to build our building on. So it's super important to make sure that you select a neighborhood. And when I say neighborhood, I'm thinking of like musical genre here. What do we want to do? What do we want to be playing? How do we want to improvise? In what style? Is it straight ahead? Is it experimental? Is it something new that hasn't been invented yet? What does that sound like? Who are the essential pioneers or icons in the space? What do those people sound like? Who are their influences? What skills do they have that you need in order to execute that sort of improvisation? And so then how do we know if we're accurately representing that style if we've never heard it? Who are the experts that we can talk with that might help guide us in the right direction? So you can't build a skyscraper on quicksand. You have to locate the neighborhood with the goals that align with your concept and build within the frameworks of that genre. Obviously, if you're going to improvise free music versus jazz music versus salsa music, they're all going to have different goals and what you need to. So in our case, I'm going to pick jazz as the genre for our neighborhood, and I want to put my building in the jazz capital, in the jazz, I don't think it's somewhere right around here in New York City, the West Village. Even though we probably can't really afford to live there actually in real life. So that means for me, I need to identify who are the important jazz trombonists? What do they sound like? Who are their influences? What skills do they have that I need in order to be effective at communicating as a jazz improviser? As you can see, this will vary pretty widely depending on what you're going to use as your definition and of the musical style that you want to operate in. There's certainly a lot of overlaps, but the specifics are going to be a little bit different. All right, then we're going to move on to the next step. L, learning the building blocks. This is where we're going to build, and we need to develop the blueprints for us to be able to build from. I also say that this is the kind of the collecting of the raw materials to start building your building. And your building, of course, is your musical identity and your musical knowledge. So this is going to include a lot of things, including scales, like the septatonic parent scales, like major scale, harmonic minor, melodic minor, harmonic major, the octatonic and symmetrical scales, arpeggios, augmented major, minor, diminished, seventh chords, and then taking those and putting them into workouts, because workouts are going to take these building blocks and put them into more context and application. It's not just for scales for the sake of scales. It's scales as a tool to be a vehicle of your musical expression. You can see another video here on YouTube. You can search for it after the presentation. It's called Major Scale Workout. There's 2 of them, and you can check those out for what I mean. And I see that I'm right on top of my text once again. There's no good spot to put my my camera when I'm doing this presentation, but you want to go ahead. The most important part of this with the building blocks is that you got to practice until you can't play it wrong. Most people will practice something a few times and then move on because they say, oh, I got it. No, practice until you cannot play it wrong. That's how essential these building blocks are to your freedom as a jazz improviser. You can't start to build anything without the raw materials, and this is the prerequisite knowledge I mentioned before needed to make the blueprints for your building. So that's learn. And now we're going to go on to I, improve your foundations. Before you start building your building, what do you have to do to build a tall and strong and safe building? Well, you got to dig a deep and well-constructed foundation. So for us, that's going to be instrumental proficiency. Without the ability to freely play the things that you imagine in your mind, there's no chance for you to be able to play them in real life. Meaning, could you execute the technical aspect of the ideas that you're thinking of or hearing? Your technique could be holding you back a lot more than you even know. And before this presentation, I was listening to some recordings of some young students, and you can hear how they have great musical ideas, but their technical proficiency does not allow them to execute. So it's very important. So you know me, I'm a trombonist, so I want to speak from experience and use myself and my students as examples. So in our world of a jazz trombone, you know, some of the skills that I need to have to be able to freely execute what I hear in my musical imagination, well, I need to have sound, articulation, flexibility, range, slide technique. I need to practice technical etudes. I need to practice lyrical etudes. And so I'm building the foundation according to the neighborhood I've selected. It's all contextual, right? So some genres need different skills. For example, a master improviser in maybe a salsa style like Jimmy Bosch is going to require the ability to play with a lot more fire and volume due to the nature of the music. Maybe you would cross over into other things, but you get my point that each and every genre is going to have their own things that you need to work on to master them. And of course, we have our trombone master here, Mr. J.J. Johnson on the left, my hero. And so that brings me to the concept of that this is the neighborhood. You got to pick your neighborhood. But the next concept being this dichotomy that I find often with students, and that's the idea of your concept and your skills. So it's a classic circular problem that we have to encounter as we work our way through this method or any method really. And as we stop to think about our musical concept and identity, which is what we're doing today, and start to improve it, we start to realize what skills we are lacking. From there, we start to build those skills through the refinement of our foundations and our building blocks. As our skills develop, we are met with the reality of our concept also evolving more. So my skills go up, my concept changes, my skills go up, my concept develops, and it goes around and around in a circle where we're constantly improving our skills to realize our concept. And then as our concept evolves, we need more skills to execute the concept. So that's the dichotomy that I'm talking about. And around we go as we continue to level up and build our skyscraper here. So That's improve our foundations. And then we have to master the language via experts. So that's through learning, repertoire, solos, style, etc. The number one way that we need to learn if we want to be strong improvisers is to learn by ear. That means not from written books. We want to learn from the source. There's a lot of times when books are super useful, but the language acquisition of our musical concept that we're building, we want to learn, I usually say, straight to the brain. Straight to the brain. We don't want to have something and then have to memorize it. I just want to learn it straight to the brain. So the first way that we absorb the improvisational language of jazz is to work on solos from the masters. These are the walls, the stairs, the windows of our building, all the essential elements to creating the building itself. In my teaching, I usually pick 4 or 5 masters that you can investigate deeply. Just like digging our foundation deep, you want to go deep on the musicians that you study. So for me, here's 4 that I picked. Of course, I'm right on top of his face once again. Let me just get rid of myself here. Of course, we have J.J. Johnson on the right, Curtis Fuller in the middle, Slide Hampton, and Steve Turre. Why? Well, these 4, for me, cover the essential jazz vocabulary and innovations of the 1950s improvisation through to today. And unfortunately, 3 of them have passed on, and Steve Turre is the last one with us of this bunch. But without getting too far in the weeds here, what we do is we then zoom in a little bit more specifically to the specific bits of language that each of these masters are using, meaning how are they using the building blocks that we talked about before to turn those foundations into real, meaningful communication, just like turning the cement and the 2x4s and all of that into walls and structure of the building. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn vocabulary. This is you starting to develop and use the different spaces of your building to create real, authentic, and meaningful improvisation. You're outfitting the building with what it needs. It's doorknobs, it's signage, it's handles, all the little invisible parts that you can't have a building without, but you hardly ever notice if they're there. So there's so much to this step. And again, it's a never-ending cycle. The more vocabulary that you learn, the more skills that you develop, the more ability you have to absorb more vocabulary, you acquire more skills, and you realize your full musical concept. So vocabulary to me is learned through 2 avenues: transcriptions that you learn by ear and transcriptions that you play off the sheet music. Like you can see here, there's a million PDFs you can download from the internet of people that have transcribed things. The former is that straight to the brain format that I mentioned earlier, and the latter is perfect for approaching as you would a classical etude or a technical etude, something out of the Arbenz book or Rochu book on your instrument. So you would learn to execute these solos with as much precision as you can. Focus not on just the notes themselves, but actually how the notes are being played and how the ideas flow from the beginning of the solo to the end of the solo, and how that relates to the other musicians who are playing in the band. So after we've done a deep dive, maybe 4 or 5 solos from all of our masters, we're going to focus and turn to the other essential element, which is repertoire. So repertoire can be all these different things. It's different types of tunes, right? So it's not classical rep or orchestral excerpts. What we're talking about is different types of blues, ballads, songbook tunes, rhythm changes, jazz tunes. So to me, the repertoire is like the rooms on the various floors. Each room has a different purpose. Is it an office? Is it an apartment? Is it a boardroom? Is it a kitchen? Is it a bathroom? Everything's going to need something different in order for you to play with purpose in all those different styles. So the blues, like I said, blues, rhythm changes, ballads, etc. You're going to improvise and learn to play slightly different stuff and have different focuses on each one. And then when we do that, the rooms, they start to stack. The more tunes you learn in one area, you're building this side up, and then you build this side, and then you're like, oh, I need to learn more blues, I need to learn more ballads, and you kind of build up and build up and up and up, like we said. So then these rooms, they start to stack, and that leads us directly to our very last step, which is that we have to be patient and build one floor at a time. Now we're really building with vocabulary, with transcribed solos. We've got solos as etudes. We've got our essential repertoire. Now we just need to rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. But what I find is that sometimes as we're going along, a great mentor might say, hey, wait, there's a hole in the floor. You missed something. So for me, I missed really developing a strong knowledge of bebop tunes, right? So for me, I had to go back. I could play all kinds of different things, all kinds of different quote unquote modern harmony, modern type tunes, but I was lacking in the area of bebop. So I had to go back. I had to go back and study things like Donna Lee, Confirmation, lots of Bud Powell, these types of things. So it's likely of no fault of your own. We often don't realize what holes have been created until we've kind of leveled up our concept to even be able to see or hear that something is missing. But you got to go back down. You got to go and clean that up. You got to fill in the holes. You got to build and repair so that you can get the skills needed, the language needed, or improve your concept or expand your repertoire so that you can build that solid foundation. Because without that, you're not going to be able to go as high as you want to. So then you got to think about opening your building, but what happens after you've opened? Well, you got to maintain it. If you don't keep up your technique, if you don't keep up your concept, if you don't keep up your learning, things start to get dirty and cluttered. Continual care and repair of the space and continuous learning, checking, reflecting. Are you on track? Are you expressing your musical voice in the way that you want to? So then comes the fun part, developing your voice. So I think of it like this. Each room in your building, and I think of that as type of tune, has a defined role in your musical life, like a living room or a bedroom has a certain thing that you're going to do in there. But you get to decide how it's stylized. You get to do the paint. You get to pick the furniture. You get to set up the lighting. That's you picking the specific vocabulary. That's you picking the masters that you learn from. That's you focusing on different type of sounds and styles and phrasing that you really like, the nuances, the styles, all of that detail about every player that you love. And so the different influences you've investigated in this process will start to show up as the styles of the repertoire. So people talk about finding your voice. This is that step. And you don't have to really do anything. You will naturally come to your voice by picking out the things that you like and kind of combining them into the concept of your overall musicianship in each genre. So that's the 5 steps. And you've gone through each. And you've noticed that they're more or less all circular. As one develops, another needs development, and then you dig the deeper foundation so you can build higher and higher. So you can follow these steps and you can master improvisation in any style, and it's faster than you thought possible. But here's a little secret. A lot of these ideas are going to repeat for different genres. Maybe just the style could change, or the articulations, or the time feel. Definitely the repertoire and the vocabulary is going to change, but you're still going to end up decorating the rooms with your style regardless of which neighborhood you're in. The jazz neighborhood, the classical neighborhood, the salsa neighborhood, free, whatever. You'll retain your identity within those different spaces. Just think about the fact that you can see and recognize a Frank Lloyd Wright house, whether it's built in New York or California or anywhere in between. You'll then start to build a whole musical city, and you can kind of move between the buildings at the right time to fit the musical situation that you're in. So to recap and simplify into a few simple steps here, you're going to develop the concept, you're going to gather the building blocks, you're going to build a deep foundation. You're going to build out one floor at a time by learning from the masters, preferably by ear, decorating the rooms of each floor with your musical personality. And if you find a hole in the floor, you're going to go back down, learn the skills, and rebuild to go higher. So, some things to keep in mind here. Let me move myself so you can see. Things you want to keep in mind here is to be honest about your self-assessment of your skills. It's really good to have an outside accountability partner who will be honest with you. It's really essential. That could be a friend, that could be a teacher. That honest feedback is not a personal attack. It's really important to remember that the person that is giving you that feedback is giving it to you from their perspective and trying to help you as best that they can. Make sure that you're going deep and not wide. It's super common amongst my students that they want to go super wide and try to learn everything all at once. It's really hard to do that. It's really much more efficient to go deep on one player or style, and then kind of move your focus, move your focus, move your focus, and you can go deep again, go deep again. So then you want to make sure you're picking the essential things that are going to help you get the furthest, the fastest. There's lots of shiny objects out there, and you want to make sure that you're working towards the things that are going to give you that deep foundation rather than, the prettiest lighting on the outside of the building. This is where a great mentor can come in, somebody that has experience that can tell you, no, don't work on this, work on this. This is going to get you furthest, the fastest. That's why it's so important to have that honest relationship with someone who can help you. So skills in music are stackable, just like the floors of our building. So everything that you learn at the beginning of the journey is going to be just as relevant at the middle, later on, and on and on. And you have to continually refine the concept. If you don't know where you're aiming, you're going to hit it every time. So let's talk about now the implementation, how we're going to take action on all this information that we just talked about. And I see the questions coming in on the chat here. I'm going to get to them as soon as we get through about 5 more minutes here. So first, I want to give you this free gift. So the two free gifts, really. Well, first is this Jazz Frameworks book. If you haven't seen it, if you go to jazzframeworks.com, you can get this free textbook and supplemental videos that talk about bebop. And so what this is that L step. This is learning the building blocks. It's a self-guided journey through the essence of bebop language. It's organized into 3 units. This is actually modeled on what we teach at UNT. That I wrote the curriculum for our improvisation level 2, which is the bebop class, and this book is kind of that. So if you want to dig deep into jazz language, you can go to jazzframeworks.com and you can download that. It's also on my nickfinzer.store. You can find it, but jazzframeworks.com, and that will help you with that L part, the learning the building blocks. But I know what you're thinking, dude, what the heck, that's already free. Yes, it's free. It's always been free. So what you're really getting for being here today, and if you signed up in advance for the webinar, you're going to get an email with the link, or you can go down into the description below, which is my 2024 goal setting workbook. So if you're a person that likes to set goals like me, after today's presentation, you're thinking about a lot of the stuff that I just laid out, you can go and look through that workbook. It's going to be totally free. Again, you'll get an email later if you signed up for the webinar in advance, and it's down in the description if you're watching live now. So what I'm really excited for in 2024 is that I'm doing this online teaching stuff for a long time, really since early 2010s. And 2017, I launched my virtual studio. But before that, I rolled out a book in 2013 called Get Ahead, and then I made a course out of it. And that was my first forays into online education. Awesome. I can see people are downloading these free gifts right now, which is amazing. Go down. The links are down there in the description. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm really excited because, as you might imagine, my calendar is pretty full most of the year, but I have a little bit of time to work with some of you who are looking to take your musicianship to the next level here in the next 6 months. I usually have 0 availability for new students to join the studio, but for the next 10 days, I'm enrolling at maximum 5 new students into my online studio. And I'm excited to be able to focus on this climb method that we just talked about with those lessons. So if you want to see if it's a good fit for us to work together, how I can help you in your busy lifestyle hit your goals as fast as possible, go down into the link below, and you're going to find some times between now and next Friday, the next 10 days. Like I said, there's only at maximum 5 slots that I have available, and you can sign up for a 15-minute free consultation where we'll jump on a Zoom call and we'll just talk and to see if it's a good fit. If I can help you reach your goals, and I can be that person giving the accountability and the guidance that you might need. So we can do that in a couple of ways. One is, of course, online lessons. And so you can go to my store, nickfinzer.store, and grab a lesson after we chat. So feel free to sign up for a consultation down in the description. And then we can do sets of 1 or 5 But what I'm really excited to launch in the next couple of weeks here is this new thing called Ultimate Jazz Trombone, Volume 1. So it's going to be 6 months of membership with group weekly coaching calls, exclusive course videos that break down best practices and guide you through the curriculum. It's going to give you a community of like-minded individuals that are all passionate about jazz, trombone, improving themselves, a clear and concise path to improve. I'm that accountability partner for you in this whole process. Clear assignments and benchmarks every single week to help you. And you can go at your own pace. So as fast as your time for practice allows, or as slow as you need to go in order to fully realize the material. And then I'm going to throw in a couple of extra things like the goal setting course, my new book, Create, Connect, Repeat. If you missed that, that's a music industry and business book that came out last year. And of course, the back catalog of courses. So you want to go grab a time slot in 10, 15 minutes between now and the end of next week. And we can chat about how to do this. So that's the climb method. And of course, this year we're going to focus on my hero, as I mentioned, JJ Johnson. Also because I'm launching a brand new performance project this year, featuring JJ's music. It's called Legacy. You can see it on the screen here. And we're going on tour. We're launching singles that's coming out in a couple weeks. Getting to play with some of JJ's former band members. That's Lewis Nash on drums, Rini Rosnes on piano, Rufus Reed on bass. And we recorded last year in the same studio where JJ recorded many of his seminal recordings. That's the Van Gelder studio out in New Jersey. Anyway, but this presentation is not about that. Just thought I would throw that in there. So we've reached that time where I can take a few questions. I'm going to grab a sip of coffee. I'm glad that it took only exactly 31 minutes. I was shooting for 30, so we did pretty good. And I see questions here, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into those. I'm going to move myself, maybe make it a little bigger here. All right, I'm going to scroll back and do these in order. Let's see. Thanks for joining. I see more people that are joined here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. California, Israel, Mountain View, Tennessee. Can you talk about how to practice improvisation over jazz standards? I can, but the more detailed version answer to that question is going to be if you go download that Jazz Frameworks book. It'll give you all the building blocks that you're going to need to know. jazzframeworks.com, and it's going to give you through some exercises to get you walking bass lines, to get you playing eighth note lines through, and then you got to transcribe solos over the songs that you want to play over. So, for example, if you want to play over Stella by Starlight, you might go and there's a couple different recordings of JJ Johnson playing Stella by Starlight, and you might transcribe those solos. You might buy transcriptions of his solos so that you could play along with him. I think that the most important thing to do is to, like I said before, develop the concept of what you're doing. So by that I mean listening and then being able to emulate what a solo is supposed to feel like in the realm of jazz improvisation. So if you listen to JJ, if you listen to Curtis or Slide Hampton, you're going to get a good idea of what a quote-unquote good jazz solo sounds like. And that will help you to improvise more than anything else, is having that concept in your brain of what it's supposed to sound like. So it's that combination of concept and skill. You know, you're listening, you're developing then the skills along the way. So knowing the scales, knowing the being able to play eighth notes, being able to play quarter notes through courses. That's the short answer. I could give a whole master class, and I have, and do give a whole master class about that method, that frameworks method, which we go into another time. Would you recommend transcribing first or learning some standards first, or learning both more or less at the same time? So at the same time, James, I think is the answer to your question. If you want to be most efficient with your time, you want to transcribe something on a tune that you're already learning, or vice versa. Learn the tune of the transcription that you're already diving into, because it'll allow you to double dip a little bit, right? So you're learning the building blocks of the tune, you're transcribing and developing your concept over the tune, all of those things. Excuse me. Sip of coffee here. And then you're doing both things at the same time rather than back and forth. So I always recommend, in my studio with my students, what we do is we'll learn a transcription and the same tune and improvise over it always. All three. And I see Kevin gave the same advice. All right. We're all our own worst critics. Any tips on how to appease the inner critic as we travel the long road to reaching these goals? Oh, yeah. Well, that is a great question, Jim. I battle it too. I definitely battle it too. My tips, if I could give you some tips on this topic, are that you have to be critical, but you also have to let it go. And you have to let go of those other people, and what they might think, or trying to impress people, and just kind of go for your own, what you want. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I use the example of my heroes as kind of setting the level for what I need to achieve. So if I want to be able to play music with the impact of J.J. Johnson or Curtis Fuller, then I need to be able to execute on the trombone on those levels. So that kind of gives me, something to aim for. And but there's also the trap of like comparing yourself to those people or comparing yourself to your peers. So I find it that it's helpful sometimes to set the level, but then you have to commit to the process, the practice. Something that I'm doing in 2024 as a goal of mine is to do more meditation. And so in meditation, I've done it off and on now for years, but trying to redouble my efforts. And in that practice, it's only about that. It's only about the practice. It's about showing up and doing the work. And I try to approach music in the same way. I know what my level is. I know what my goals are. I know what I need to do to get there. And it's just about showing up and doing the work every single day. There was a period in my life where I probably did not miss 2 days in a row of practicing, probably from when I started undergraduate until I finished grad school. Maybe there was a week off or two in there, but I think my family would attest that I used to bring my instrument on vacation. I was obsessed, It was about being obsessed with the practice, not practicing, but the practice of practicing, of showing up and doing the work each and every time. So that's what I think. You have to take those baby steps. The more you play, the faster you're going to get there. Are there some accompanying videos that aren't uploaded yet to the Frameworks website? I've spent some time in there, and I'm not sure if I'm missing something. Yeah, so James, there's I think 3 or 4 videos that are up now in the Jazz Frameworks. As we approach closer and closer to 1,000 downloads, I'm going to kind of try to get more and more video resources up there. As people work their way through the book, I'm going to try to make videos that address specific topics in there, and those will be for free on the YouTube channel. But for right now, there's just kind of some specific topics that are mentioned in the book that have videos that go along with them. And there's some stuff that's like really hard to demonstrate through text, so there's videos. But I think there's 3 or 4 videos there now. But right now, the Jazz Frameworks is kind of more or less a work on your own kind of thing. And that's something that we could work on together if you were to join into the studio. From Matt, when you say learn tunes, can you elaborate? Do you mean memorize the melody, or do you mean memorize chords, be able to play in multiple keys? Yes is the answer. When I say learn tunes, that means you can play the melody. It's, again, this straight to the brain. The most impactful moment of my whole life as a jazz musician, I'm going to switch back here, was the moment I still remember it very clearly. I was living in New York. I had finished grad school. No, we had just started grad school and just been in New York for a few months and realized our apartment was far too crowded. And what could we get rid of? Well, what takes up a whole lot of space is all those darn real books. And so I threw them all away, and I made a commitment that I was going to learn every tune straight to the brain. And that was the best thing that I ever did. Best thing. Threw away the real books, and anytime I needed to know a tune, I learned the tune. When I say learn a tune, I mean learn the tune. Learn the melody, know the chord changes, be able to play it in other keys if you needed to. Now, I'll give you a caveat. If it's like Donna Lee or Confirmation, I'm not expecting that you can like instantly transpose that melody into 12 keys. That's ridiculous. But if you can play like a blues in 12 keys, you should be able to do that. Take some simple things through the 12 keys. I'm not a you must play everything in 12 keys person, but I am a you should be able to play a few things in 12 keys person. So I think that that's important. But that's what you got to do. You got to, and like I said, it's not easy work, but it is work that needs to be done, and it's not complicated. It is quite simple, really, but it does take effort. So when I say learn tunes, that's what I mean. Happy New Year, John. Hope you're doing well. Happy New Year. How do you teach your students the art of consistent practicing? How do you talk to them about learning and practice on a meta level? That's a good question. I like to teach from a place of kind of what I know and what I have experience with. I don't want to try to, fake my way through. So I try to talk to them about what their job is and what their role is now as students. So we would start off with a conversation about their priorities and their goals, where they're trying to get to, because ultimately what I'm trying to say is that they have to be the ones that decide that they're going to do this consistent practice, and that it is aligned with their goals. So we talk about the goals, and we talked about the where they want to get to, and then we talk about their identity, and like maybe not so literally, but kind of, how do you define yourself, and how do you want to define yourself, and what do you want people to define you as? Some people might call it brand, but it's like, well, what do people know about you just from your name, like about you, like the type of person you are, and what do you stand for? So if they say, well, I want people to think of me as a great musician, it's like, well, what activities do you do if you were a great musician? What are the activities you would be doing? Well, you would have a consistent practice schedule. You wouldn't make excuses about not practicing. It would be the most important thing in your day. And then I talk about committing to that, and that, like, if your identity is as a musician, you want to be a player first, not a arranger or a composer. You want to be a player first, that your mission is to put as much time in college or in your practice time into developing as a musician as first. And that sometimes that means that other things have to go to the wayside. So you have to make choices in life. Everything can't be the top priority. So we talk about that, and that's kind of what we talk about. You're trying to align your identity, your personal identity, with your actions, and that way it doesn't require any sort of effort. Because it's part of your identity. I am a person who XYZ. I practice. I'm a musician. I am a great musician because I put in the time, because I practice every day. You look at your heroes and you see what they did, and then you try to emulate them, and you try to get better. And so that's what we do. That's how I talk about the meta level of practicing and learning and getting better. So hopefully that is helpful. And so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Everyone has their own journey. It's not everyone's time to go deep dive into practicing. And that's why I talk about, are we a good fit? If you're going to join the studio for 3 months, 6 months, do you have the time? Are you redefining your identity in a way that's going to allow you to do that? So that's what we can chat about. If you ever feel like you're not improving in a certain area, how do you know if you need to switch your approach, or if you need to stick with your current process for a longer period of time? In my case, I feel like I'm not getting better at playing fast, but I'm not sure if my approach to practicing is bad, or if I need to stick with my approach for longer and trust the process. So again, this is where having a mentor and someone that can guide you is super essential, because you probably won't be able to tell. I think at a certain point you can tell in your own playing, and based on how many times you've run into that wall, ram into the wall again and again and again and again and again. The short answer, there's 2 points I would bring up in terms of your specific case to answer that problem. One of which is there is fast vocabulary that you need to learn. You cannot play the same vocabulary fast as you can at medium tempos or slow tempos on the trombone. So listen to Curtis Fuller, how he plays fast. There's tunes like The Stroller is a great blues solo. There's one called Bang Bang. There's one he has a great solo on It's All Right With Me. They're all fast. So you need to transcribe fast solos to learn fast vocabulary. So that's what I would say. If you wanted to go fast, you need to get better at playing fast. You got to transcribe fast solos so that you can learn fast vocabulary. So that then means playing your building blocks fast. So that means maybe you need to practice your articulation style, your multiple tonguing on one note, moving around, chromatically, diatonically, all the different things. And that leads to my second point, which is you have to play with technique that is intended for being playing fast but slow. So what I mean is if I'm improvising this tempo, I can probably single tongue, but if I'm going to practice trying to play fast, so I can go, I gotta go so when I'm playing at a medium tempo, I'm also practicing and utilizing and cleaning up that multiple tongue so that I don't have to shift to a new technique. So those are 2 points. Awesome, Simon. I'm glad to hear that. So from Matt, I've always told students that provided the requisite talent, they can be whatever they want to be, provided they're willing to sacrifice everything else. Yeah, so true. So true. As long as they have the kind of the basics, it's about dedication. It's about, I like to say it's about being obsessed. And maybe that's a little unhealthy at times, and I can attest that yeah, it's not super healthy all the time, but you have to kind of put it at the forefront of your mind, whatever that one singular goal is or one singular focus. And what I like to kind of use the caveat is like for now, or like in this season of your life, like what is the focus? Because sometimes the focus is practicing and getting better at your instrument. Sometimes the focus, at least for me, is composing, or sometimes the focus is I'm writing a book, or sometimes the focus is I'm totally dedicated to teaching and to developing something like curriculum or something like that. So it goes around and around in a circle, and you have different periods or seasons in your life, and you can be totally obsessed with one thing, and it kind of defines you. From Brian, would learning fast solos from other instruments be useful? It could be useful, but I would say do trombone. If you play trombone, do trombone. If you play piano, do piano, because there are idiomatic things that are easier to play on trombone that will help you to play fast. You can't play the same stuff. Like you just can't. Like there's physical limitations. Even check out all your favorite players play certain all of your favorite players play certain fast vocabulary. You know, it's not just one thing. It's almost a different language. From Brazil here, Paulo. I'm a luthier, been building double basses. Have some tendonitis. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Playing trombone. I started playing trombone. Awesome. We recorded some songs. Oh, nice. Congrats. That's awesome. So I hope that today's conversation has been somewhat enlightening, that you might consider going down below and checking out a 10-minute meeting. We can get together, chat for a couple minutes and see if I can help you with your musical goals, maybe direct you towards some resources and figure out how we can work together. So make sure you grab the free gifts for being here. So grab that Jazz Frameworks book, grab the 2024 goal setting workbook. You can use the code. The code is CLIMB. It's down in the description box. And please do so quickly. Feel free to share this webinar with anyone you wish. It'll be up for the next week or so, and then it'll be gone while we're in this open period of enrollment into the virtual studio and launching this ultimate jazz trombone. So if that's something that you're interested in joining a community, there's, like I said, just about 5 slots to do that. And we're going to use J.J. Johnson this semester. Well, more like 6 months. 6 months of focusing on him, going deep, not wide, but deep. And obviously there's plenty of your own stuff mixed in there, but we'll kind of jump off from there. If there's any other questions or things you want to chat about, please feel free to drop them into the comment section for now. Otherwise, I'll let you get on with your day. I so appreciate you coming to hang out with me. If you have any feedback for me, feel free to put it in the comments, or feel free to send me an email, nick@nickfinzermusic.com. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll keep vamping for another 30 seconds to see if any other questions or comments come in. You're welcome, Chuck. You're welcome, Matt. I hope you have all an amazing 2024. I hope you're able to achieve your musical dreams this year, or at least get started on them and get focused on them. I know it can be overwhelming at times, but we got to just take it step by step by step. Thanks for being here, Kevin. Appreciate you always. And I hope you'll keep an eye out for my new legacy project. Robert, you're very welcome. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. Legacy is going to be an amazing project. All this, and the first single coming out in a couple of weeks. I'm sure you'll see it online from me. And you're welcome, Simon. Thanks for being here. Enjoy Rome. Thanks for taking time out of your evening there in your Italian class. That's really awesome. All right. If there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for today. But thank you again, and we'll catch you very soon. See ya.